Hey y'all, and welcome to PolitiBrawl. My name is Brian, and even Stephen A. Smith is getting tired of The View, which has been spewing out Democrat talking points for as long as anyone can remember, but Stephen A. Smith has had enough and finally gives them the truth bomb that they so richly deserve. Let's dive in.
It's only been in office for 6 weeks. Seems like 6 years, doesn't it? Mm-hmm. And he's been going around with his cronies touting his so-called landslide and blowout win. But he won the popular vote by 1.5%, one of the smallest ever, and he won the general election by less than 50%. So what kind of mandate is this really?
Well, it is a mandate, and I'm going to explain why. And I don't mind the question, but let me be very clear. I'm no supporter of Trump. I'm a supporter of truth and the facts. And here's the facts. The man won every swing state. He increased in terms of his voter turnout in his favor from the standpoint of blacks, Latinos, and young voters. He increased his numbers in that regard from 2020. 89% of the counties shifted to the right. That's a mandate. We can sit up there and play around all we want to. In 2020, Trump didn't win the popular vote. He didn't win the electoral college vote. A matter of fact, the Republicans hadn't won the popular vote, if I remember correctly, since 2004. But they did this year. So 20 years after they last won a popular vote, they won the popular vote. They won the electoral college vote. The man won every swing state. And on top of it, 89% of the counties shifted against. I don't understand how people can look at that and say, there's no mandate. There's a mandate.
Well, it's a different definition of a mandate, I guess.
But the problem is that if you're the Democratic Party and you lost 49.8% to 48.3%, and you're looking at that 1.5% dip, that's an excuse for you to say, what we did really wasn't that bad.
Some people didn't
we should continue to do that. Don't continue to do it. Find a new strategy. It's not about him winning. It was an indictment against the Democratic Party and what the Democratic Party was offering to American citizens. We might sit up there and talk about, hey, you should be a party for the working class, which the Democratic Party was once known for. They're not known for that right now. Why? Because their message was catering towards others and towards other issues, and they forgot about the people that brought them there, that elevated the Democratic Party to what it was over these last few decades. That's why they lost. He didn't win.
Well,
the Democrats
let's remind
lost.
people what those issues were.
Sure.
Let's remind people what those issues were.
We can do that.
Making sure that families had what they need, making sure stuff is there, making sure that the America that we all grew up in, where you could come and be whoever you were supposed to be or want to be, you still have that right. All these things are the things that the Democrats have always said. But now we have a guy who says, yeah, I'm going to bring down the price of eggs. But first, I'm going to cut all these jobs, and I'm not going to see why they need to be cut. I'm just going to cut them. Because I'm going to put people in. Well, that's what he's doing. He's doing all
and alienate all our friends around the world.
But you're talking about what he's doing. But before you brought that up, you brought up the message that the Democratic Party was disseminating. I'm challenging you on that. That is not what they were doing.
I'm not talking about the intent. We did it.
I was here too. I was alive and breathing right here on the air talking to everybody else.
He's right. He's right. The Democrat Party needs to find a new strategy. And I don't want to give him free advice, but I kind of like being right more than anything else. Kind of like Stephen A. Smith. Although, let's be honest, Stephen A. Smith is not a traditional conservative. The dude is mostly a moderate. He is still mostly a Democrat. But there are times on his own programs where he's been forced, not even forced, let me rephrase, where he has to admit that Donald Trump has done some great things for America. And it ticked off his ABC overlords at Disney so much that they basically told him to hush on the political stuff unless you're talking on your own program, which he would do in his own purview outside of ABC. So Stephen A. Smith actually does understand what's going on. And so the Democrats are facing a huge crisis because in 2020, they had 81 million votes. You can discount that all you want, and I wouldn't blame you, but let's be honest here, Donald Trump had 75 million votes. This go-round, Donald Trump had more than 77 million votes, and the Democrats could barely muster 74 million votes. That's already a big problem, but you start digging a little bit deeper and it becomes a bigger problem when you start looking at some of the demographics. The largest shifts in voter support were seen among men, particularly men of color. Donald Trump won the vote of Hispanic men by 1 point, 49% Harris, 50% Trump, a 35% difference, 35-point difference from 2020, when Joe Biden won the Hispanic men by a 34-point margin. Similarly, there was a 35-point difference in how black men voted in 2024 compared to 2020. While black men voted for Harris in 2024 by a 47-point margin, 71% Harris, 24% Trump, it was significantly less than Biden, who won the vote of black men by an 82-point margin over Trump in 2020. That is a significant problem, and Stephen A. Smith might be the perfect person to point out this problem, because the dude has lived in the sports arena, particularly in the NFL and the NBA. And the NFL and NBA fan base, let's be honest, it's not all as white as the major leagues or, hockey. Okay, let's be honest here, there's going to be a bit more of a racial discretion here. And it's okay to admit this. It's also okay to look at Stephen A. Smith and wondering, what exactly is he trying to say? He's saying that the Democrat Party forgot its messaging. They forgot their own coalition. They forgot what got them there to begin with. And there's been this slow drip for the past 20 years of blue-collar workers slowly moving towards the right, all because the Democrat Party, instead of being the party of the worker, instead of being the party of the union, instead of being the party of the little guy, which they have been for their entire existence, since Thomas Jefferson basically started the earliest version of the Democrat Party, it didn't really take hold until Andrew Jackson in 1828. But the earliest version of the Democrat Party was the party of the little guy, of the small farmer. That evolved into the laborer in the cities and in the Rust Belt. And then that turned into the party of minority voters who needed and deserved their civil rights. And now it's turned into the party of essentially rich white liberals and their annoying little kids. That's what the Democrat Party has catered to for its recent existence, in my opinion, since 2014, and it was really started in about 2003. And so the Democrat Party has been basically undergoing these demographic and coalition changes ever since FDR. But Barack Obama brought in a new coalition that even further tightened that idea of minorities are a huge part of the DNC voter group. But then the Democrat Party forgot how they got there. And ultimately, it's been Republican policies, particularly under Donald Trump, when he quite literally told HBCUs, you will be fully funded. That's something that Barack Obama never even thought to do during his presidency. Then, under that same tax cut plan, Donald Trump ended up creating something called the Economic Opportunity Zones, and all of a sudden, black men were getting jobs and black families were creating businesses, and it was better for their community. Then Latino communities started going in to these Economic Opportunity Zones and started opening their businesses as well. This has been a fantastic policy that has worked time and time again, and now we're at a point where we're going to be reconsidering those same tax cuts and extending them in the future, and also extending those economic opportunity zones. So you think that minority voters started looking left and then looking right and wondering, maybe there's a better deal out there. And guess what? That is exactly the kind of conclusion they reached. Because once they realized that the Republican Party is all about the self-actualization of the small business owner, the belief in that entrepreneurial spirit, and ultimately that old pioneer spirit of, yes, I can make it here in America, once they realized that that's what the RNC was talking about, that's what Donald Trump embodies, of course, minority voters, particularly men, started moving in droves to the Republican Party. And this isn't going to change anytime in the near future, because Democrats have doubled, tripled, and quadrupled down on catering to exclusively rich white liberals and their college bratty kids. That's what's been going on in the DNC. That's why they've been losing voters en masse over the last election, and it's probably going to happen again. Because people aren't watching The View, who also happen to be, working outside and working in construction, or working in the factories, or working in the warehouses. Those people aren't watching The View. Those people are getting their news from YouTube. They're getting their news from Twitter. They're seeing that the old facade that the Democrat Party has been building for so long is nothing more than Fabergé, and it is being torn down to pieces as we speak. Because there's more truth here on YouTube than there is in the entirety of the Democrat apparatus in the mainstream media. And that's why I wear this shirt. Defund the media, okay? because the media is not telling you the truth, and people like you and me are starting to see the sad reality that we have been lied to. The Democrat Party is not offering good deals for the workers of the world anymore, okay? So ultimately, the Republican Party is now picking off these parts of the coalition, and now the Democrats are behind the 8 ball. And ultimately, they've made their bed. They can lie in it. And so Stephen A. Smith is trying to speak truth to power, but people like Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg, they'll never admit that they're wrong, because if they did, that means that everyone's going to question whatever they say, both in the past and in what little remains of their future. Folks, my name is Brian. Hope you enjoyed that segment here on PolitiBrawl. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Catch you on the next one. Until then, y'all have a good one.